Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to just do my test server for this week. I'm going to feature this a little bit differently than the last few test servers I've done. I'm going to feature a few regular bots to start with, just to show the difference in comparison between test server and live server. Now I see a lot of people comparing test server to live server and kind of losing the plot a little bit with some of the things that are coming out. But the reason why I'm featuring things like a Lancelot, for argument's sake, is just to show that the mechanics on test server really isn't anywhere near as accurate as it should be. This thing, yes, Lancelots are slow, but this is far too slow. This is that slow, it is going to stop. But I do really like the ions and the Zeus. The effect looks really cool, but again, accuracy wise, this thing is far too slow. So comparing it against the main server, and this is why I run a few bots like this. I honestly think that if you compare it against some of these robots, you get a better idea, but because the mechanics aren't set up properly, you're kind of not really getting a good idea. On the other side of the coin, this is an Arthur, and this thing's hooking along. Like, I don't even think if you put like 4 speed modules, which I'm pretty sure you cannot do, on this thing, it would move this fast. Yeah, just like I said, the mechanics are just well out. So if you're looking at test server, you really need to just look at it at face value and don't compare it to anything that you're currently running, because it's nowhere near correct with the mechanics. Okay, I will say one thing though, I deliberately ran an alpha to see what the shotguns were going to be like. And this has got 1 alpha and 2 betas, as typically an alpha does. And I honestly thought they would have done a lot more firepower than what they did. So, again, test server, who knows what they're going to come out like on live server. Okay, another little regular feature. A lot of people in the lower leagues have been using this thing for quite a while, but quite a few people in champs are using a mender. I've featured this thing with the new sonic weapons, which actually aren't too bad, although they just sort of act like a sonic shotgun. They're only effective at like 200 meters and closer, so they don't hit anything past that. But when you're right up close, they really do some damage. This is one of the robots that I think they got the mechanics right on, because it seems to move like it should as a mender. I don't run a mender in my live server. I've got a couple of guys in our clan that do, but yeah, it seems to be working pretty well.
Kill. Double kill.
So, for not ever running one of these things, I actually think I did fairly well. The test server was very insane this week. I think a lot of high-end players that got on here to test the new gear, but also Android had a good day and a half or whatever it was on top of iOS. So as you know, I'm an iOS player, so yeah, I think I ended up matching up against a few players that had already worked out what the best things were to run to get the Titans out. Okay, one of the new main hangar bots, or the new main hangar bot. This is the Shell. So you can see it's got a physical shield around all 4 sides of it, and it basically looks like a mini Arthur. It's got 1 heavy weapon and 2 light weapon slots. Again, I've featured the sonic weapons on it just to see how they go. They seem to be the thing to put on the test server here this week. But this thing kind of has like, it's like a mini, it really is like a mini Arthur. It sort of charges in, but it's got like a blast wave that it sets off as well. Like so you can see that there. And I've blasted old mate AJ into the water. So, Shell, Mini Arthur. Oh, so quickly, just one thing I didn't mention either is that the blast wave is kind of matched in with the charge effect. So you charge in, after 5 seconds of charging, then it sets off the blast wave. Okay, there's the new Minos up close and personal. So as you can see, it has a reflector shield and it also charges. And you'll see in a minute just exactly how well it does work, because this poor little shell is kind of shelled into the water. So when this thing hits the live server, it's probably going to be quite nasty. Not confident it's going to be as fast as it is here, being that what I see with Arthur, even Elming, the last few test servers I've run have had supercharged Titans. I'm not saying that this is how this is going to happen, so this thing might not be as quick as it is on the test server. And again, there's the charge effect, just smashing someone out into the channel again. So yeah, I mean, looks like fun, and
Titan Slayer.
get myself a Titan Slayer. Okay, so this is a shell coming towards me here, and one thing I did notice with the shell, when it charges, it all opens up, so you can actually shoot at it and get past the shields when it's in charge mode. So you can see my magnums are actually hitting the core of the robot, although now the shields are completely gone, so... Okay, fighting another shell here, and as you can see, like, it's going on sideways, so looks like only the front and rear open up with the shields, so you can either shoot it in the back or shoot it in the front, but the sides you sort of can't bypass the shields. Okay, this thing was a horrible attempt because this is a long range map, and this thing was using ions and taking everything out at distance, and I had no chance because I couldn't even get close enough to teleport to it. So you'll see I don't even do any damage with this thing. I sort of get my robot given back to me in pieces. Okay, my attempt at a shell again. Went with the new railgun weapons again, and yeah, no, these things are just like Yeah, they're like spitballs. They're freaking horrible. I can't believe how weak they are. But like I've pointed out earlier on in the video, test servers really doesn't have any sort of gauge on what they're going to be like. Although I have tried them in the main server on our skirmish, and they're not much better. I'm not really impressed with them at all. They'll probably buff them at some point, because that's what they seem to do with most weapons. They release them low powered and let you win them for a bit, and then they buff them like atomizers. But we'll just see how they go. Not really not really a fan of them. Was kind of excited to see that we were going to get railguns, and expected railguns to be kind of ridiculously awesome, but they're just very underwhelming. So here's an interesting thing to point out, and I know this works with Arthur because I had an invader that I used to attack Arthurs with, but even the blast wave on the shell doesn't really do much to invader. I think it's a spider bot thing, and they're sort of attached to the ground, and they don't really move with the blast wave. It moves him a little bit, but not much at all. Probably different when he's in the air. The same with an invader. The same with an invader versus Arthur. But when he's on the ground, can't move him. Okay, finally got my chance to drop the Minos, and this is one of my early games. I featured the other stuff just to show the difference between live and test server, but this was like my first use of this thing. And I can't say I was really doing so well with it. It takes a bit of getting used to, but yeah, I expected the shotguns to do a lot more damage than they actually did. They just don't. They're kind of a bit underwhelming here as well. They're strong, but you kind of seem to get unlimited fire with them as well. But yeah, nothing. There we go. There's my first kill. But sort of getting fried here a bit. But you can get across the battlefield very quickly with this thing. Like you can watch in a minute, and you'll see. I'll just charge across. It runs like a dashbot. It actually really runs like an oversized strider. But I honestly don't think it's going to be released to the main server this quick. Here's another example of how horribly slow the Lancelot is. Again, test server, live server, don't compare it. Okay, here's another example of how horribly slow some of the robots are on here. Now, AJ, sure don't walk this slow. They actually walk fairly quick. They're like a raven, they walk at about 50 plus kilometres an hour. And I've had ravens on the test server as well, and they walk at like 20 k's an hour. And I know my raven, even though it's a level 10, it walks at about 57 k's. About the same speed as an Aries. So this thing is extremely slow as well. There's a perfect example of how slow these things walk. And how often do you see on the main server that a Titan walks past an Algian walking across along the ground? Okay, done, dusted, and we were defeated. But we're not here for that. We're here just to test out some new stuff. So if you're watching YouTubers put up like test server videos and sort of acting like used car salesmen a bit, and oh, look at this thing, look at that thing, just keep in mind that it's nowhere near as accurate as it should be. That was half the reason for this video. I mean, the reason is that I like to do the test server videos and just show what's coming up. I really did want to try out the Minos, and I also really wanted to try out the Shell. But yeah, the mechanics are nowhere near as close. I don't understand why they do that with test server. I'm a diesel mechanic, and I've built quite a few engines in the past. And after rebuilding an engine, I don't imagine that I would have been doing my job properly if I'd put my engines on the dyno and only half loaded them up and gave customers the wrong idea of what their engine was capable of. So I don't understand why the test server doesn't really mimic the live server. It just does kind of give you a little bit of an unrealistic expectation of what the new stuff coming out is going to be like. You can't really gauge how weak or strong it is compared to the stuff that's on the live server. So for argument's sake, you can't gauge those sonic weapons up against the strength of, say, an atomizer or a Corona, because the mechanics aren't accurate. You can't really trust it. But that's my little spiel on it. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you. See ya.